What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer, taking a look at Synchron one more time. So I've been trying to find my newest deck to play IRL, and I'm half invested in finding something that is actually good on some level, right? I'm not gonna spend $1,000 on Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I'm willing to spend a little bit, and I've kind of been looking at everything that I've been playing as of recent, like maybe in the last 2 months, and I'm like, what is the best deck that I've played, that I can kind of play and mess around with? And I think I've found it. I think it's Synchron for sure. Synchron I would never rank in any sort of tier, but it's just something that I can steal matches against. That's kind of my goal, right? When I'm playing against any random deck from the format, right? No one's playing Synchron. And this is kind of, and over the course of it, I've been playing, rank 4 spam recently, and this and that. And I really do feel like this is the best deck that I've played. And hopefully in this video I can kind of showcase some of my thoughts. The grind game is really, really good for this. Maybe the best part, to be honest with you. If your opponent does negate your, junk speeder, obviously it's very bad, but the more you play the deck, the more you find out that it's really not game bending. And how hilarious that, SP Little Knight has to have an extra deck monster as material. I have to activate effect for the second banish to go through, and I don't think he realized that. It's kind of funny. But, I'm going to showcase a little bit more. That was against Chimera. But, I guess the whole goal is to beat Rogue, right? That's what what's the best Rogue deck? And, I'm trying to go after that a little bit. So, I'm trying to showcase as many decks as I can, like Floowandereeze, Sprite Runic, kind of these cards that kind of fall in the Rogue category. Can it compete against those? The answer is yes, for sure. Yeah, so I do run Stardust Charge Warrior, but, the problem is, I always just have this big fear that when I activate Stardust Illumination, that I'm going to draw into, the monster, because it only special summons from deck. So I guess that's kind of the worry. And I think maybe there's another level 6 that's kind of worth playing over it. I'm going to finalize my deck profile probably this week, and I'm probably going to buy, this deck. The only problem is there are a few expensive cards. Baron's very affordable, and I have a lot of the monsters, but Excel Synchron is very expensive. The Bestial Dispotter, that's very expensive. So it's kind of unfortunate, to be honest with you. But I'm willing to spend something if I really do feel like the deck is okay. And I do feel like that it has good matchup against Fire King and Flu specifically. And I'm going to showcase that in the next couple of duels. Those are the decks I feel are kind of on the same level. Kind of see the same number of results in a weird way. Can I beat those decks that are more expensive? And can I play this Synchron deck? So I only run 2 copies of Synchron, but normally if you draw something, it's really not that bad, and it's definitely a skill issue if you can't top deck Lightning Storm against Floowandereeze. I do also play Pride of Prosperity, so the idea of seeing some of these really good going second cards is good. And when you do side, I'll even take out 1 copy of Pride of Prosperity. Maybe I'll take out 1 copy of Fenrir, stuff like that. And you'll have 12 going second cards, which I feel is pretty much all you could ask for. So the Lightning Storm did a lot of work, but in a weird way. I basically just avoided Book of Moon, and I forced him to go into the Apex Avion, versus something else, or the Ryza. That's the other card they play, which would be way worse against me. But yeah, he did waited too long, right? He was kind of waiting until next game to activate Apex Avion, and that's huge for me because I can just go into any generic synchro, beat over it, so I don't have to worry about the negate anymore, which is exactly what I did. This is kind of the mainline combo, and I definitely broke his board. It's a little bit awkward, but I do have a Monster Negate and Omni Negate, and this is an Omni Negate that destroys every card in the field. And this is where Dispotter comes in, and I think over the course of my combo, which is just so disgusting, right? I did bring back the Assault Synchron, and Assault Synchron can just bring back Majestic Star Dragon, which is a soft once per turn Omni Negate that destroys all cards on the field. And this is the most important interaction when it comes to Synchron and Flu. So your opponent's going to do a huge chain, right? Chain link 1, whatever monster's on the board, and then probably 2 in the banish zone that are going to trigger. So you banish the last one in the banish zone that was activated, and then you shuffle the other one back. So your opponent's losing 2 cards here. So yes, my opponent is going to get Eglin, but he doesn't have enough tributes there. And then obviously when he, the only extender that he had was the field spell, Majestic Star Dragon, negate, and then destroy all cards on your opponent's field. Obviously, like, very, very ridiculous kind of effect. This is against Fire King, and honestly, I thought my IRL deck that I was going to play is a rank 4 spam, but it has such a bad matchup against Fire King. Like, it's extremely frustrating, but I guess an okay opening. You do have to deal with Fenrir. Like, it really is a card that you have to deal with. I actually top deck my own Fenrir. I was kind of baiting out for him to banish this. He didn't really have a choice, but at the same time, maybe he should have. It wouldn't have made that big of a difference, but so Fenrir is just unbelievable. It's just such a good card. It's just like, the modern version of Pankratops, which is insane. But, he did have the Ash, which was huge, but I did end up going into Cyframe Omega. One of my favorite interactions, and maybe I show it, I don't know. Basically, is these two cards together. I think he ended up ashing this, which was big for me, but Fenrir special summon, activate Synchro Overtake, special summon the Jet Synchron, go into Cyframe Gear Omega. If you do have a tuner in your hand, you can actually use the effect of Synchron to search. But the most important thing is that you go into Cyframe Omega, banish a random card from your hand. So now you have no monsters on the field. So then you go for Fenrir again. It's like really good if your opponent ashes you, almost like specifically like this. He has another copy of Fenrir, obviously, but maybe more important is that I have that Garunix in the banish zone, which is like, definitely how you want to play it. Cyframe Lord Omega is such an unbelievably powerful card. It's really amazing. I get rid of his last copy of Fenrir, which, I guess is good, right? Because he doesn't have that body anymore. But I was like, if he has hand traps, I'm really screwed. He did have, Imperm there. That kind of stinks. But I'm going to set myself up for next turn, and I can go into Stardust or Crystal Wing. It's actually kind of a card that you can go into like more often than you think. If you're in the late game, sometimes you can actually like go back into your what's it called, your Crimson Dragon, right? Because it brings itself back to the extra deck. So then, like, you have these level 8s later on, and you can actually use Crimson Dragon again. It does definitely come up every once in a while, but that was against Fire King. Here's another one against Fire King, and I'll show another one against Floowandereeze. I think I maybe use this here, so obviously another copy of Fenrir, which can be good copies of our, Magnus for Ash if your opponent doesn't know what you're playing. And there we go. There's the interaction I was talking about. Nibiru, but actually it does trigger Stardust Trail, which is crazy. And now look at that. Because my opponent, used Nibiru, I can actually go into your like Junk Speeder, which is really great. And now I can activate Cyframe Lord Omega again. He's kind of just wasting cards. And now I'm going to go into an Omnigate that destroys all cards on the field. It's over, right? I mean, this is just such a good card. It's an unbelievable effect. And the fact that you can cheat it out. Like, I know there's definitely versions of this deck that you can play the Crimson Dragon that, he stops your opponents from like playing any cards. But, I mean, I just think that's not fun. Not to say that this Endborn isn't ridiculous, but, I think it's obviously, at least your opponent can, like, play. But I love Majestic Star Dragon anyways. It's just a cool, like, card to play. This is against Floowandereeze. I just have a couple more replays to play here. Again, just, like, having the Dispotter is so crazy. Yeah, like, D-Shifter does hurt, for sure. But it's really not the end of the world. Like, I'm still going to be able to go into Junk Speeder here. And also your opponent has like one less card, which is like a very important detail. And I can go into Cyframe, I can go into the Dispotter, getting rid of a Pot of Prosperity, which is crazy, and I can, rip another card out of his hand. So it was Apex Avion, which kind of stinks, but I did have Ash Blossom in hand. That was like really important. And then, yeah, just like having this chain is so unbelievable. It's so specifically good against Floowandereeze, which is a big reason why I like it, because Flu's very cheap, so... if you like were to go to locals, like I feel like there's a pretty good chance your opponent would be playing that. And then this is against Sprite Runic. And again, like you can play like 12 going second cards when you're going second, which is it's nice. I have tested running the Adventure Engine in this. I really don't know how I feel about it. Like I said, I'm going to finalize my deck list to kind of finish things out, but yeah, I'm on the fence about the Adventure Engine. Not that I kind of understand it more. He does get to draw 3 cards with Runic Fountain, but at least I get to, bait something out in his hand. It's so important that Fenrir says, like, no monsters and not no cards on the field when it comes to its special summon effect. But, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the Gin Buster, which is great. And maybe I probably shouldn't have used the effect to try to banish the field spell face down, but I don't really know what other monster effects he would have had, to be honest with you, so I don't think it made that big of a difference. Alright, I can go into Baron, you know, get rid of the field spell, which is great, right? It's semi-limited, so now I'm kind of like really in control of the duel here. And I could probably get rid of the Baron at some point, because I did use the negate, if I'm not mistaken. But now I can kind of go through my regular combos, where I'm going to rip 2 cards out of his hand. You know, that helps me go into the Crimson Dragon. I get, you know, to bring 2 cards back, which is just so good. And, yeah, he surrenders, which is pretty cool, you know, especially against, like, Runic Sprite. It feels like a very competent deck. And I guess I'll just show, you know, one last one. This is against Testina. And if you are playing, like, seriously, like, rogue or casual decks, like, there's a very good chance they're just trying to, like, stomp on them pretty much. This is, like, the regular combo. I feel like everything I've shown so far is, like, my opponent's interaction, which is, like, a very natural part of Yu-Gi-Oh! But if you do get to go first, like, and your opponent doesn't have any interruption, you get to go through your full combo, it's unreal, like, what you can do. You're going to have, like, an Omni Negate, like, sometimes even, like, you can go for the Yang Zing line, so you're protected against Dark Ruler no more. Besides the fact, right, that you are, like, legitimately ripping 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. You just bring it back, you rip another card. So your opponent's going to start with 4 cards. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And Pot of Prosperity can do some cool things. Like, I've replaced the Rocket Engine with the Adventure one. So I'm going to go ahead and negate all the cards on the field. And, you know, he doesn't have anything, right? I have Dispotter. And Dispotter and Psyframe Little Omega just work so good together because the cards that you banish off Psyframe are gone, right? When Psyframes come back, you know, the cards in the banish zone usually aren't there, right? Because your opponent has to activate monster effects. That's how Yu-Gi-Oh! Works. But yeah, I will show my deck profile like fairly soon. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. And I will see you guys next time.